On a rainy night, a man heads home through the downpour. As he walks, he notices a figure collapsed on the ground. Concerned, he approaches and asks if she's okay. The girl weakly looks up at him and pleads for blood. Confused, he hesitates, finding her request bizarre. Monsters that drink human blood are called vampires, he thinks to himself, doubting the situation. He contemplates calling an ambulance, but pauses, wondering if she truly might be a vampire. She begs again, desperately promising she will do anything in return. Pathetic and utterly helpless, she seems when he first encounters her. In the end, he relents, offering her his blood. She thanks him fervently and introduces herself as Sumire and tells that she is a vampire. She then asks how she might repay him. He tells her it's unnecessary, his humble demeanor surprising her. She even questions if he might be a samurai due to his calm and modest nature. He reveals he's just an ordinary guy. Sumire, still in disbelief over his kindness, kneels before him and insists that he allow her to do something in return, for he has saved her life. He tries to explain that she owes him nothing, but ultimately he takes her back to his home, unable to leave her out in the rain. Once inside, she inquires if his roommates are around, to which he responds that he lives alone, since he is a bachelor. Apologizing for the mess, he admits he rarely has guests. He introduces himself as Yakumo Ren. Sumire, still observing him, tells him that he is a perfect human for a vampire. He notices that she's drooling, and she playfully explains that vampires train every day to suck up humans. Eager to repay him, she offers to help with anything, but Yakumo insists there's nothing he needs. Sumire, however, uses her vampire abilities to scan his body and informs him that his blood circulation is poor. He acknowledges this, attributing it to his sedentary job. She immediately volunteers to give him a massage, a suggestion that leaves him baffled. Yakumo protests, saying it wouldn't be right since they've just met. Sumire, however, insists, kneeling and gazing up at him with determination. He reluctantly agrees. She instructs him to relax, lying on his back as she begins working on his shoulder muscles. As she touches his back, she remarks on how large he is, and Yakumo sheepishly admits that being so big is often more of a burden than a blessing. As the massage progresses, she asks if he is feeling something, and he replies, saying it tickles more than anything else. Sumire, determined, stands on him, applying more pressure, and only then does Yakumo feel the effect. After finishing the massage, she clings to him, her arms around his waist. She praises him again, this time for his delicious blood, claiming he is the best human in the world. Yakumo admits he's never received such compliments before and asks how his blood tastes. Sumire describes it as having a deep, spicy flavor with a faint fragrance. Amused, he tells her she has an unexpectedly refined palate. She, in turn, insists she can't be the only one satisfied and offers to make him dinner. However, as she fumbles around the kitchen, it becomes evident that Sumire is unfamiliar with cooking. She even struggles to differentiate between sugar and salt. When she sees the stove, she notes that it's different from what they used at her school and reassures him that she'll manage. Yakumo, observing her uncertainty, questions whether she's really all right, but she insists he sit back and enjoy watching her cook. The situation quickly escalates when something catches fire and Yakumo rushes to help her. When she finally serves the meal, it's badly burnt. Upset and feeling like she failed to repay his kindness, Sumire grows quiet. Yakumo, not wanting to pry but curious, asks why she had collapsed outside in such a state. With a bittersweet smile, Sumire explains the harsh rules of the vampire world. As a dropout who can't even feed properly, she is considered an outcast. There is no place for someone like her among her kind, and she cannot return. Wiping away her tears, she wonders aloud why life has to be so hard. Yakumo, sympathizing, remarks that both humans and vampires seem to have their struggles. Realizing she has nowhere else to go, Yakumo offers her a place to stay, suggesting she remain with him. Surprised by his generosity, Sumire asks if he is truly okay with it. He reassures her, stating that she doesn't seem like a bad person and truthfully he has been feeling a bit lonely himself. Overjoyed, she thanks him profusely. He then notices she must be freezing from being in the rain and offers to run a bath for her. While soaking in the warm bath, Sumire feels rejuvenated. Laughing to herself, she celebrates her newfound luck. No more bathing in rivers or hiding in alleyways. Tears of relief and joy spill down her face as she reflects on the warmth of the home she's been offered. Later, Yakumo apologizes, explaining that he doesn't have any appropriate clothes for her to wear. Sumire, now in high spirits, teases him, saying that she's already found a fantastic dress. When he looks over, he realizes she's wearing his shirt. Early in the morning, she notices that Ren-san is still asleep and thinks of making breakfast for him. She remarks that bread is a staple food for humans and wonders why they need to prepare food when it could be eaten as is. She examines the ingredients, thinking about how human food is far more complicated than what vampires consume, but she's confident that he will be more than satisfied with her effort. Everything is prepared, and now all she needs to do is wake him up. She starts imagining scenarios in which he will realize how useful she is as a vampire, thinking it's a perfect plan. She hopes that as a reward, he will let her drink some of his blood. With excitement, she goes to wake him, but just as she's about to, the door opens and he appears, greeting her casually. Shocked, she asks why he woke up on his own. He explains that his alarm clock went off. She glares at the clock in frustration and, without hesitation, places it in the sunlight to let it burn. He glances around the room and comments that it looks clean. She proudly tells him that she took the opportunity to tidy up while he was resting. He thanks her and she eagerly asks if she's not amazing. He pats her head and she insists that he praise her more. He chuckles, thinking she's like an affectionate dog. Afterward, he leaves for work and she waves goodbye. The sun has risen by now and she decides it's time for her to sleep. Realizing she left her coffin bed behind, she wonders if she can use something else. Using cardboard, she constructs a makeshift coffin and settles down to sleep. When she wakes up later, she remarks that she slept like a log, getting up and putting her clothes on, ready to get back to work. She wonders if the laundry has dried and notes that the apartment doesn't get any sunlight in the afternoon, making it perfect for her. She sniffs the clothes and notices the scent of the sun. But there's also something else. Beneath it is the deep smell of Ren. This scent stirs her appetite, and she starts drooling, realizing that she's hungry. She reminds herself that he gave her some blood yesterday and she'll have to resist today, but the thought of his blood and body keeps creeping into her mind. She muses over how big he is and how much blood he has, thinking to herself that maybe just 2 mouthfuls wouldn't hurt. Struggling to control her urges, she waits for him to return home, but the hours pass and he doesn't come. Finally, at 11 p.m., Ren enters the apartment and apologizes for being late. The moment he walks through the door, she leaps at him, telling him he's late and asking if he wanted to see just how hungry he could make her. Having lost control, she begins to drink his blood. Afterward, she regains her senses and immediately apologizes, realizing she lost control. He reassures her that it was partly his fault, and they decide that from now on, they should get phones so they can at least contact each other in situations like this. The next day, when Ren comes home, Sumire eagerly greets him. She climbs onto his back as he announces that he's finished his work for the week and is now free. Delighted, she gets excited, and Ren suggests they use the time to go shopping. She becomes even more enthusiastic, but before they leave, he stops her, pointing out that her appearance is quite conspicuous. Sumire responds that these are the only clothes she owns. Ren, concerned that she might attract unwanted attention, considers going out by himself. Sumire insists she wants to go with him no matter what, so she makes her wings and tail less noticeable. Ren covers her with a sheet and advises her to keep a low profile as they head out. As they arrive at the supermarket, Ren mentions that it's open at night, which is quite convenient. Sumire is amazed by the size of the market and asks if all the food is meant for humans. He confirms, and she marvels at how humans have a system that makes food procurement so easy, something vampires could never match. She reflects that it was thanks to this system that she met him. Ren warns her to behave, reminding her that he already stands out because of his size. They walk to the meat section, and Ren notes that they're out of meat. Sumire, impressed by the selection, picks a large amount, saying he'll need it to produce a lot of blood. He tells her they can't buy that much. Just then, she sniffs something that's been bothering her and realizes it's garlic-infused meat. Horrified, she declares it an inhuman trap and says they can't possibly buy it. Ren asks if she dislikes garlic, and Sumire clarifies that it's not about preference. Garlic, she explains, causes vampires' limbs to become paralyzed, makes breathing difficult, and is essentially the scent of death, a weapon developed to counter vampires. Ren compares it to pufferfish poison, and she asks if he finally understands. He assures her he does, finding humor in the absurdity of the situation. As they continue shopping, Ren suggests she pick out some new clothes. Sumire asks if he's really okay with that, and Ren encourages her to choose whatever she likes. Being small, she picks out clothes she thinks will fit and goes to try them on. She emerges, noting that while the height is right, the chest area is tight, making it difficult to find the perfect fit. Ren agrees with her observation. After selecting a few outfits and changing, she proudly declares that she has perfected her human disguise. They head to the cashier to pay, but the employee comments on how Ren is walking around late at night with a child, noting that he doesn't seem like her parent. Sumire, seizing the opportunity to use her deception skills, blurts out that they're lovers, leaving the cashier stunned. Ren quickly steps in, explaining that Sumire is a relative's child and he's taking care of her. He lightly scolds Sumire for teasing adults, and the employee accepts the explanation but starts gossiping about him. Sumire, after they leave, asks if she should have just told them that he found her on the streets. Ren replies that would have been much worse and suggests they head home. As they walk, Sumire smiles and Ren asks if something happened. She excitedly tells him that she's never had so much fun in her life. Seeing her so happy, Ren feels relieved and glad that she's enjoying herself. She suggests taking a different route home since they'd come all this way, pulling him along as she wonders what lies down another street. Ren tells her not to pull too hard, but they continue on. Meanwhile, a girl watches them from a distance, puzzled. She recognizes Ren, but has never seen Sumire with him before, and she wonders who this new girl might be. Sumire is jumping and running, holding his hand, asking him if it's also fun for him to walk like this at night. She says it's the time when vampires are invincible and that she can really show her stuff. Suddenly, she feels something strange and asks Yakumo if someone is following them. She then shouts at the person hiding, saying that they're lurking in the shadows, so they should come out. As the figure emerges, it reveals a beautiful female staring at them. Sumire quickly realizes that the girl is human when the girl angrily asks who she is. Sumire retorts that she should be the one asking the questions. Sumire then shouts, accusing her of being a homewrecker, claiming that she was undoubtedly drawn there by Ren-san's delicious scent. However, Yakumo quickly steps in, telling Sumire that she's mistaken as the girl isn't like her. Sumire, still unconvinced, begins sniffing the girl all over, asking Yakumo if they're related. When Yakumo explains that they're siblings, Sumire finally understands, as the two of them smell so similar. The girl, Yakumo's sister Minori, then turns to her brother and asks who Sumire is, noting how young she looks. She goes on to accuse Yakumo of picking up a runaway schoolgirl. He tries to explain the situation, but Minori isn't listening, so he asks Sumire to clarify things, fearing it will get ugly if she doesn't. Sumire agrees and declares that they are life partners, causing Ren to freak out, pleading with her not to complicate things. After Ren explains the truth to Minori, she's initially shocked, but soon after she teasingly asks Sumire if she's at the brooding age. Sumire, feeling teased, retorts by jumping at Ren, licking his neck and declaring that she'll show Minori in detail how she drinks his blood. Horrified, Minori yells at Sumire to get off her younger brother, and the two begin bickering about who Ren belongs to. Minori, clearly not buying the story, finally says she'll force herself to accept that Sumire is a vampire. But even so, she won't allow her to have her brother. She then makes an X sign, which confuses Sumire, who asks what kind of toy it is. Minori is shocked that it isn't working and contemplates driving a stake through Sumire's heart or using silver bullets. Sumire, unfazed, sticks her tongue out and tells Minori she'll have to find another way, as none of those will work. She then advises Minori that if she wants to defeat a vampire, she'll need garlic. Ren chuckles, remarking that garlic is the easiest method of all. They then explain everything to Minori, and now, as she's staying in Ren's apartment, she comments that her brother is too kind to people. She acknowledges that things might be tough for vampires, but humans have their own concepts of what's proper. She suggests that Sumire come with her to her place, offering that it would be wholesome and wouldn't raise any eyebrows since they're both women. Sumire glances at Minori's body and then bites her hand, sucking blood and remarking that her blood is a bit fatty, so she should exercise before offering again. Infuriated, Minori retaliates and the two begin fighting. Ren tries to intervene, urging them to stop, saying that fighting won't solve anything and they should just try to get along. Both women stop and apologize, agreeing to shake hands and make peace, but when Sumire shakes Minori's hand, she twists her finger, mocking her for being so weak. Enraged, Minori shouts at Sumire, calling her a chimpanzee, while Ren looks on in worry, wondering what will happen between the two of them. Since the day Sumire had come to live with Ren, he had been giving her blood every morning. However, it was never quite enough for her, and she knew that taking more would risk his health. Faced with this dilemma, she realized she needed to come up with a plan. She took out her notebook from her school days and declared that she'd follow the guidelines she once used. As she flipped through the pages, she found a note suggesting that hunger could be mitigated by using milk. It struck her as an odd solution, but if human money could be exchanged for goods and services, then perhaps milk was worth trying. As she glanced at the page, she recalled getting scolded by her teacher for falling asleep in class. She was supposed to be paying attention, but she'd always struggled. There was a part of the notebook she couldn't fully decipher, but she understood enough to know that she could buy milk from a store. Luckily, Ren had given her a small allowance for emergencies, so she decided this qualified as one. Feeling determined, she ventured out to the supermarket they had visited before, convinced that finding her way would be easy since she'd been there once before. However, it didn't take long before she got lost in the middle of the street, unable to figure out where she was. As she was searching for the way, a voice called out to her from behind. It was Minori, who immediately pointed out that a young woman like her shouldn't be wandering alone at night. Sumire at first felt relieved to see her, but her competitive spirit quickly kicked in, and she fired back, asking if Minori wasn't a young woman too. Minori calmly replied that she was an adult and was merely heading home from work. Curious, she asked Sumire what she was doing out by herself. Sumire, trying to maintain her pride, insisted that she wasn't lost and was just wandering around. However, her vague answer gave Minori the impression that she was, in fact, lost. Sumire then admitted that she was looking for milk. Minori, trying to understand, made a quick connection between milk and blood, figuring that might be why Sumire was seeking it. She offered to help her find a store where they could buy some. Together, they went to the store, and Sumire was thrilled, buying a large amount of milk, hoping this would ease the burden on Ren. But when she looked more closely at her purchase, she realized that many of the cartons weren't actually milk but imposters, other dairy products. She immediately panicked, declaring she had fallen into a human trap. Minori watched the scene unfold with shock, thinking that Sumire was more of a doofus than she had imagined. When they returned home, Sumire tried the milk, and while it didn't resemble blood as much as she had hoped, it did take the edge off her hunger. However, she was still perplexed by the other dairy items she had mistakenly purchased. She decided to try one of them, and to her surprise, she loved it. It tasted closer to blood than she had expected, and she found herself wondering why she hadn't chosen it in the first place. But just as she was enjoying the moment, something unexpected happened to her stomach, and she had to rush to the bathroom. In her distress, she shouted that it had been a trap. The next morning, as the sun rose, Ren noticed that Sumire looked a little worn out. She casually told him that she was on a diet, but Ren didn't believe her. He asked what had really happened, and Sumire explained everything, from her attempt to find a substitute for his blood to the stomach trouble she had experienced from the imposter milk. She revealed that she hadn't wanted to place any more burden on his health, but her stomach was still grumbling from the ordeal. Ren, understanding her intentions, stood up and reassured her. He appreciated her efforts and told her that as long as she had good intentions, that was a help in itself. He then suggested she take a sip of his blood to celebrate her effort. Sumire, eager and touched, jumped toward him, drinking the blood gratefully. As she did, she remarked that he spoiled her a lot, but Ren simply smiled and told her that she didn't need to put so much pressure on herself. Her thoughtfulness was more than enough for him. At the office, Ren immerses himself in his project. The pressure mounts, with deadlines looming and everything seeming to catch fire at once. Despite the chaos, he finds a moment to escape to the rooftop where he makes a quick phone call, apologizing for the inconvenience caused by the ongoing situation. He assures the person on the other end that they will reassess the matter with urgency. After ending the call, he quietly mutters to himself, wondering why such unreasonable demands were made in the first place. Weren't the impossible deadlines their idea? Feeling drained, he wishes the person could be a bit more understanding, yet the pressure weighs heavily on him. When he finally makes it home, Sumire greets him enthusiastically, having waited for him with excitement. The memory of how lonely his past had been contrasts sharply with the warmth of now having someone waiting for him. He appreciates the change, though exhaustion clings to him. As they enter the house, the day's stress lingers, and he reflects on the long hours spent apologizing at work. The crisis consumes his entire day, and he wishes he had an extra set of hands to help with everything. Sumire, always eager to assist, offers to take over the task of apologizing, claiming she excels at it. With a smile, she redirects his attention to the dinner she has prepared. Ren, thankful for the effort, feels the need to recharge, likening his weariness to a fire needing fuel. As Sumire presents the meal, Ren notes that the dish looks impressive, but his mood shifts when he glances at the state of the kitchen, which is in complete disarray. Despite the chaos, Sumire brushes it off, saying that the mess is like the wounds earned honorably in battle. After dinner, Sumire proudly informs Ren that she has also filled the tub for him. Though he offers her the chance to go first, she insists that she has prepared it for him, urging him to relax. Ren takes his bath, but by the time Sumire's turn comes, most of the water has already spilled out. Later, as they settle into bed, Ren reflects on the rough day he's endured but finds comfort in Sumire's presence. He expresses his gratitude, feeling that thanks to her, he can face another challenging day ahead. Sumire, flustered by his praise, starts to blush. She thinks about how his words make her feel, though she tries to brush it off, insisting to herself that she isn't seeking any reward. Yet her desire for a little indulgence grows as she considers asking for a taste of his blood. However, as she turns to look at Ren, she realizes he has already fallen asleep, exhausted from the day's events. She feels a pang of understanding, recognizing how hard he works, not only at his demanding job but also in letting her feed on him, all while carrying his daily burdens. She hugs him gently and whispers a quiet goodnight, content with just being by his side. Meanwhile, on a nearby rooftop, a vampire stands overlooking the city, marveling at how strange and chaotic the place feels. She sniffs the air, noting the faint scent of another vampire lingering amidst the throngs of humans below. Turning to the vampire beside her, she questions whether they should investigate. The other vampire, impressed, praises her sharp sense of smell, preparing for whatever they might discover. Sumire smiles softly, deciding to let Ren sleep for now. She needs to clean up the kitchen she messed up last time. However, suddenly, she sniffs the air and realizes someone is at the door. There's a sudden noise, and Ren awakens, stunned to see several vampires standing there. They have captured Sumire. One of the vampires introduces herself as Dahlia and hands him her card, her demeanor surprisingly friendly. Ren, confused, initially thinks she might not be a threat. However, Dahlia quickly adds that since he has seen them, she will have to keep his mouth shut. By turning him into her snack, terror washes over him, and he quickly retracts his words. Sumire, trying to protect him, demands they not touch Ren. Dahlia responds coldly, telling Sumire to shut up or she'll cut off her head. Ren, distressed, pleads with Dahlia not to hurt her. Dahlia remarks that Sumire's struggling is annoying and admits she's not particularly good at dealing with situations like this. She turns to another vampire, Kikyu, and casually suggests cutting off both their heads to eliminate any evidence. Kikyu, after observing the situation, counters that killing them wouldn't necessarily destroy the evidence. She notices that Sumire and Ren seem to know each other and suggests they should investigate further. Dahlia finds the idea intriguing, admitting that she had been thinking the same. Ren, baffled, points out that this was far from what she had said just moments ago. After hearing their story, Kikyu understands the situation and thanks Ren for saving one of their own and for keeping their existence a secret. He brushes off the gratitude, insisting it was nothing. Kikyu then declares that they will take Sumire with them and leave. However, Sumire protests, saying she won't go. She argues that she and Ren are compatible and that she doesn't need to return to the vampire world. Instead, she can live with him. Ren, supporting her, tells them he doesn't mind. Things are more lively with Sumire around. Kikyu, however, remains firm. She acknowledges that Ren and Sumire may get along well, but allowing her to stay would throw the vampire world into considerable disarray. Dahlia, with a menacing smile, steps forward and demands that they come along quietly. Her expression is so frightening that both Ren and Sumire glance at her, clearly unnerved. They begin dragging Sumire along, insisting she come with them, but Ren steps in, grabbing her and stopping them. Kikyo, with a calm and matter-of-fact tone, reminds Ren that Sumire doesn't belong in his world and had previously ended up collapsed in the rain, lost and vulnerable. Ren, skeptical, responds that it seems too convenient for them to claim they are simply taking her home. Sumire, meanwhile, looks at Ren with a mixture of uncertainty and confusion, clearly affected by his intervention. Dahlia interjects, addressing Ren directly, pointing out that he should direct his questions to the person responsible for Sumire's upbringing, who had neglected her in the first place. She explains that they have their own responsibilities to take care of and that Sumire is part of their world, not his. Dahlia then makes a move to take Sumire from Ren, but he holds on firmly, refusing to let her go. Frustrated, Dahlia turns to Kikyu, remarking that Ren is proving to be quite stubborn and isn't going to back down easily. She suggests, somewhat coldly, that Kikyu should just get rid of him. Kikyu, however, remains composed. She acknowledges that they could have easily left Sumire behind after finding her, but she also understands Ren's determination and the force of his will. Recognizing that this situation requires more consideration, she sighs and asks Dahlia to wait, saying they need to discuss what to do next. For now, Kikyu mentions she will prepare a report on the matter. As Kikyu leaves to handle the situation, Dahlia, with a playful attitude, nudges Sumire, commenting that Kikyu is too soft for her own good, though it is something she admires about her. Sumire and Ren, watching the two interact, realize that Kikyu and Dahlia have been talking for a long time, which leaves Sumire feeling anxious. Her mind races, worried about what they might be planning for her future. When Kikyu returns, she announces that she has a clear understanding of the situation now. She has been considering the possibility that Sumire's case is unique, and after reviewing everything, she realizes that Sumire indeed fits into a specific category. There is a sense of inevitability in Kikyu's voice as she explains that given the circumstances, it isn't surprising that Sumire isn't eager to return to her previous life. Ren, listening intently, tries to make sense of what class Kikyu is referring to, but it remains vague in his mind. Kikyu continues, saying that after careful consideration, they have decided how to handle the situation. Despite the fact that Sumire's actions technically break some of their laws, they see this as a rare set of favorable circumstances. As long as Sumire agrees to take specialized education and have an escort, they will permit her to live among humans on a trial basis. Kikyu will be responsible for Sumire's education, while Dahlia will act as her escort. This, Kikyu declares, is the official decision. Sumire, upon hearing the decision, becomes excited, realizing that, in other words, she will be allowed to stay. Kikyu adds that they will need to prepare an appropriate space for her to live. Meanwhile, Dahlia takes it upon herself to find a vacant room for Sumire. The next evening, they inform Sumire that they have set up a base of operations next door, and Dahlia, ever resourceful, digs a hole between the walls to create a shortcut, explaining that it would be too much of a hassle to constantly move between the rooms. Kikyu, always organized, begins issuing orders. She declares that Sumire will be responsible for doing the housework, while she and Ren will focus on their own tasks. Kikyu specifically tasks Sumire with preparing supper for Ren, saying she wants to see what Sumire is capable of. This excites Sumire, seeing it as her opportunity to showcase her skills. She eagerly prepares an extravagant meal, combining delicacies from the sea and the mountains, presenting it with pride. However, Kikyu can't help but comment that Sumire is playing with food, reminding her that even if human society now lives in an age of abundance, there was a time when acquiring such food required great effort and hard work. With a playful grin, Dahlia announces it's time for one of Kikyu's olden day stories. Kikyu turns to Dahlia, asks for an okajiri, and gives Sumire an inappropriate command, leaving her stunned. Confused and defensive, Sumire shouts, demanding to know what's happening. Kikyu calmly explains that it's all part of her education.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.